Hi, welcome to Thaddaus Dawson Speaks, Liberation Through Valuation, where soul meets soil. Today's episode is really, as I say every week, every episode is special. But today we're coming off of our National Appraisal Policy Resource Center, our first or our inaugural Appraisal Policy Summit. So it was a really exciting event where we had people coming from all over the country, appraisal thought leaders, um, industry leaders from other professions impacted by the valuation process. And just as my travels across the country, we had urban and rural communities represented, farmers. I'm just really thankful and grateful that we were able to demonstrate a strong interest and ability in the National Appraisal Policy Resource Center. And our whole goal is appraisal modernization. So this is it was exciting. It was overwhelming. It was a lot of work that we put together in a very short period of time. But we have set the table for next year, June 17th, 18th, and 19th. Save the dates. We'll be back here in Atlanta for our second annual Appraisal Policy Summit for the National Appraisal Policy Resource Center as we build the foundation to modernize the appraisal process. We will also be having a summit in Cincinnati, October 15th, 16th, and 17th, because we had such strong interest in the summit here in Atlanta. We were able to live stream. I like to thank Becky and Tim O'Mare at Bearings Bike Shop on the Beltline at 982 Murphy Street here in Atlanta. They're on the west side of the Beltline, and that's where we held the summit. Thanks also to Alex Dominguez, former real estate director for Chick-fil-A, one of our board members, who's also a board member at Bearings Bike Shop. It was a very creative and innovative conference, and I'm just thankful. We had George Dell. I believe he traveled the furthest from California. He's the godfather of data science, and he blessed us with some data science and a really strong presentation. And I want to say the furthest east, Martin Mason came in from New Jersey, and he does a lot of policy work there. Jen Martin came in from the DMV. Was thankful for everybody. Thunder Walker, she came from Oklahoma and talked to us about cannabis valuation and the future of that. And of course, I would be remiss without mentioning the home team from Cincinnati, Phil Crawford from the Voice of Appraisal podcast, the number one appraisal podcast in the country for 12 years. He gave us a really, really strong performance. Civil Rights Hall of Famer Iris Rowley from Cincinnati, two-time Civil Rights Hall of Famer Iris Rowley from Cincinnati, as well as Michelle Lamb from the Hairport. And she does a lot of innovative things with bridging the health gap in her barbershop. So those are some boots on the ground. Mr. Terry Horton, who we actually started this whole reconsideration of value movement with, doing a reconsideration of value for him in 2022. And then Dr. Jenny Stevens from the Ayers Property Center in South Carolina, as well as the Lower Gullah Geechee Queen, Miss Lawana Graves. I could just go on and on. Dr. Veronica Royal in training from Tuskegee Institute. We're going to go ahead and claim it. She's a candidate, but we just go ahead and put the doctor on it. So we're going to speak life into her doctoral dissertation. And she's actually going to be interning with us for the next 6 months as she completes that process. We had two recent appraisal development initiative graduates from Cincinnati, Miss Rosser and Kamara. They came all the way down, so it was good to see them. Oh wow, it was just really good, and of course, everybody knew who you were, Rick. Everybody was looking for you and acknowledging you. What are your thoughts on how the summit went, and did it meet your expectations? Was it a good time?
Oh, it was fabulous. And you know, all those people you say that said wanted to see who I was, that they were saying the same thing there that they do about me being on this program. What's he doing there? You know? But this was a wonderful summit. And let me tell you right off the bat that I get to do a lot of these kinds of things. And all the summits and conferences that I get to be a part of in video are all really great. They're all great. And I just assumed that this being your first time, there would be lots of little hiccups and maybe, you know, we do because you have to grow these kind of things. But wow, it just came on. It did it. It was from the people walked in and got their breakfast and they got their fantastic books. I don't know when I've seen any summit have this kind. Look, this is, you know, a firm and just full of pictures and great, not just of you, there are more, but just all the presenters that are in here and just a fabulous thing. And then all the pictures and a lot of the people who were there, the things you go to, and in the back, just a whole collage of pictures of all those things. But this was fabulous. So this was the program for the day, the whole listing of the program, the 2 days. But you pulled it off. And this was wonderful. And like I said, I thought, you know,
no, I got to correct you there. I was just up front running my mouth. Simone pulled it off. Janelle pulled it off. All of our volunteers and our team, Anita, Ernesto, none of this is possible without Simone being the bulldog she is, getting us across the finish line, roping and hog tying me a couple hours every day to continue to lay out the vision and the execution to make sure the program was as seamless. I am so blessed and thankful for my team and you included. Everybody thinks you're lighthearted, but what they don't see is that intensity level that you get when you're setting up and you get ready for show and you cussing me and everybody else out and you sweat.
I do not cuss and swear.
Oh, no, nobody hears you. The mic isn't on.
I speak very firmly, but no, you know, well, I guess I get, you know, when we go to things like that, we don't have a lot of time to set up. And if you're doing a multi-camera stream and there are just so many components to it, from the time you start setting up until the time it's time for it to begin, that you got to go. And it's just pressure. But anyway, and yes, you had a great team doing that, but most first time summits are small. Things just don't happen the fantastic way that this one did. And from start to finish, it was great. And I also was just totally surprised that so many of the people came from around the country, these high-end professionals in this industry, and they say, so that says something, the respect they have for what you're doing. It really does.
Well, again, I was concerned that I didn't do a lot of advertising, but I was focusing on programming and putting it together. And I just was making a bunch of calls and emails, and I probably could have done a much better job of communication. But we will do better. And one of the things that Barring's Bike Shop motto is it's a safe place to fail. And that's what we want to create in the appraisal industry, is a safe place to fail. The modernization, everybody wants to show up and be good. Like everybody sees our podcast and our production, but they don't see you sweating and cussing and all that you put into this work. I'm not trying to give away your secret sauce, but I know how serious you take our productions, and I'm thankful and grateful. And I'm learning, not to walk away from the microphone. We didn't have the cord, the wireless mics. We had the wireless mic, but I didn't have the podium. I wasn't what you finally made it so that I can move around and be free instead of messing up the sound. Now I think I got in the way of the camera a couple of times. I wasn't really aware of that, but our keynote speakers were phenomenal. T. Dallas Smith and his ability to tell a story and talk about his growth and purpose and answering the call. I know we had a moment where he got emotional, and I got emotional, and it was just it was all really awesome. We had a great uh, presentation by Dr. Ron Rainey during lunch. We ran over. If there was something I could do differently, which I will, is do a better job of keeping run of schedule, because a couple of people that traveled didn't really get to speak, or we didn't get to hear from them as much as I would have liked to have heard from them, or so much as I wanted the audience to hear from them.
Right.
And we had a couple of really robust conversations about the future and digitization, and everybody was just into it. And I didn't want to interrupt and disrupt the flow.
Well, and one of the things that slows a program down too, which is also good, is the fact that you had pretty much full capacity there both days of people who came. But they like to get into the conversation as well, and they did, and you allowed them to do that. Now that slows things down a little bit, but it also shows the interest of everyone who came to listen to all the speakers too. They had questions, and that was a great thing.
Yeah, it was very interactive, and what really shocked me is the number of people that stayed all day.
Yeah.
And stayed engaged. So one of the things, when I go to some of these things, I get bored, I get distracted. I'm not, it's, blah, 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 blah. But for even a lot of these industry thought leaders to say that they learned something and were able to take something away. And then we had the live stream where, we got to be careful with the live stream. We have some lively conversations, but I think we navigated and did a pretty decent job. And I don't think I really got to enjoy it as much as everybody else, but the calls and the responses and that I've been getting from around the country have made me enjoy it and appreciate it. I know you and I probably slept Monday and Tuesday, just trying to recover from the amount of energy that we exerted in doing this.
Yeah.
But again, the level of participation from around the country was humbling and overwhelming. And then the weather was bad on Thursday, so some people got detained from traveling and weren't able to come on Friday because they're traveling. Some people travel was just postponed altogether. So again, if you made it, if you didn't make it, it's in the books now, and so now we can start working on how to make it stronger and better. And it seems to be very, very timely because everything is moving towards appraisal modernization right now. Just a couple of days ago, bipartisan legislation was passed under appraisal modernization. So that's going to be a big deal. It's the appraisal process is just completely and totally outdated, and the Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae are moving to 3.6, the UAD appraisal form. This is the first time that the appraisal form has been updated in 20 years, 21 years. Actually, the date on the old appraisal form on 2.6 is 2005. And so Freddie Mac is also starting next week formalizing data collection. So the UAD data collection data set is being modernized as well. And then the legislation that was passed on congressional authorization, section 704, appraisal modernization, passed 87-10 in the House. So that's on the books. And you couple with that with I think it's just waiting on the president's signature now. You couple that with the executive order that the president under the access to mortgage credit section 6, that's being placed. And so us forming the Appraisal Policy Resource Center to modernize the appraisal process based on my Agrippa testimony to the Federal Reserve on March the 26th, where we laid out our 5 pillars to implement appraisal modernization. We are working, we've got the infrastructure to be able to improve the profession. And there's a lot of different studies going around that suggest a lot of appraisals will be moving on. I believe over 85% of the appraisal industry now is over 65 years old. So within the next 3 to 5 years, there will be a dramatic shift. And so if we focus on training the new appraisers with data science, evidence-based, data-driven analysis, they will be prepared to take those positions.
Yep. And you mentioned what you were just talking about there. Phil Crawford talked about in his presentation, and we might mention that the live stream, the recording of it is on the air, is online on YouTube and Facebook now. But what we're going to do on YouTube is separate out all of those individual speakers, so you don't have to try to scan through 7 hours of video to get to something that you want to see. So all of those things will be separated out. Just going to take the rest of this week to get that done.
And so if people come on to the YouTube channel, where do they need to go to see the live stream? Because if you just click onto our YouTube channel, you don't see it. You have to click live.
Yeah, if you click on the YouTube channel, at the top of YouTube, it'll say videos, live stream, different things up there. You'd click on the live if you want to see it today. But I'm thinking we'll remove that live stream after we put all of them separately on, because nobody wants to scan through 7 hours of it, and they can select who they want to watch and on that. So it'll all be there. But you mentioned I want you to tell folks, so that we're all clear about it, about the Appraisal Policy Resource Center that you've created. This is an organization with a board of directors, and it's based around something, I believe, to the best of my knowledge, that one of the people mentioned, one of your speakers mentioned, turned directly to you and said, one of the things that amazes about what you've been able to do is that you listen and you absorb all of this stuff from all the places you go. And this resource center is kind of a spot where all of this begins to come together for that modernization, or for the ROV and the heirs property, all of that. So tell me a little bit about the resource center. Tell me about what
I think you're referring to when Martin Mason said, every time he talks to me, he is curious, how do I get all of this information? Yeah. And so his statement was that your brain works like a computer. So I see now, as you travel the country, you download all this information from all these people that are here, and then you push it, your brain pushes it back out into this amalgamation through valuation. And that's why we're all here today. And it was kind of a great compliment, but I think it also is a testament to my grandmother, who used to always tell me, have you ever thought about why God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth? And I'd be like, no, sometimes you just need to shut up and listen. And I think that's the divide in the appraisal industry. First of all, the methodology is outdated and antiquated. Secondly, the industry lacks inclusiveness, and people are used to coming from a position of privilege and being able to pontificate, and the audience or the consumer doesn't get heard. And that's what, in most of these cases that I've seen, nobody is paying attention to what the consumer is saying, and that's just not the case. And that's why our number one policy is reconsideration of value. It's the most comprehensive risk mitigation tool that we have. And again, it's so important because if we look at the most comprehensive appraisal study ever done from the FHFA in their paper 2407, 45 million appraisals, 228 million comparable sales from 2015 to 2023. it says only 10% of all appraisals utilize market conditions adjustments. Well, that's pretty simple math. There's only 10% is utilizing them, 90% are not utilizing them. And the study goes on to say that 90% disproportionately impacts Black and brown communities, and creates systemic indifference. These aren't my terms. This is what the paper says. And so if you've got an industry that has a 90% failure rate, you need a correction mechanism. And that's what the reconsideration of value does. And it's not a law right now. It's just a policy that's only enjoyed by the Veterans Administration. And they have perfected it. They've offered it to the VA since 1944. It became official policy in 2003 through some VA. And it's not even official policy. It's suggested through the VA handbook, but they have a 3-tier model. And so what we're suggesting is the codification of this to make it a law, to protect our veterans, but also to open it up to the public. And so this is something that everybody should be able to have that protection. And right now, the evidentiary burden is placed on the consumer. And that's an unnecessary burden, which I testified to in the Agrippa hearing. So if we can modernize the process and implement the VA's 3-tier program, not only do we are able to protect the consumer, but we're also able to protect the lender as a risk mitigation tool. And then we also are able to protect the appraiser. This will stop the appraisers from having frivolous lawsuits, and it'll also help them to be able to objectively explain their appraisal report. But in a lot of instances, there is no finding in a reconsideration of value. A lot of times I feel, no, and if it's answered, now you've increased the level of not public security, but also public preference, public trust, consumer trust. People just want to be heard and not blown off. And that's exactly what happened in the Terry Horton case, which was our first case that really put us on the map across the country. Is the appraiser, the appraisal management company, and the lender didn't listen. And so we bought the consumer together, the appraisal industry together, and this process, if reconsideration of value is offered in our pillar, in our model, it should be offered through all government-backed transactions, USDA, FSA, everybody that's using federal funds. And that was one of the things that's been offered in this Section 704 appraisal modernization. So we will just keep traversing the country, talking about it and supporting it. And I'm just really excited that we decided to build our own table, and a table that's open for everybody, because the current system, again, based on that FHFA paper, has a 90% failure rate. And I think it's just reached the point of functional obsolescence that can't be fixed, and can just only serve as a placeholder until we build the new infrastructure of modernization, which is what we're doing now.
So this is the work of the
National Appraisal Policy Resource.
We've had a lot of names over the years, but we're really honing in on this now. But the resource center, then, in your broad dream, it's going to be located somewhere. Is it located somewhere?
It's located. It'll be located here in Atlanta.
Okay, and that's kind of, so it is going to be something that people can interact with. It's just not.
Oh, absolutely.
Going out.
We're doing our website.
Okay.
And we're a resource center because we're a resource. We'll help people articulate their reconsideration of value. We will help do workforce development with our appraisal apprenticeship program.
Great.
We have the 2-year appraisal apprenticeship program that we were awarded in 2024 under the Biden administration. And then on April the 7th, we were awarded the 4-year appraisal apprenticeship program under the Trump administration. These are the only 2 certified appraisal apprenticeship programs in the country through the U.S. Department of Labor. And we have a proof of concept for the work that we've been able to do alongside of the Forest Service, placing 21 students into internships in 2024 and 25. And this year we were able to place 17 students. So hopefully we will be seeking the funding and the backing, public and private. But more importantly, we want to do workforce development to be able to sustain ourselves, to be self-sustaining. And we're going after contracts. So it's an opportunity there for growth, and we're just getting started. It was our 3rd birthday as well. So the baby is a toddler, is 3. And like I said at the summit, those 2s were very terrible. The terrible 2s, it was rough. And you were there for the whole ride. So and we're still here. We're still growing. We're still standing. And the opportunity just appears to be endless. And the level of thought and firepower that was on display at the summit was phenomenal.
Yep, it really was. And my disclaimer here always on your program is I'm here to so we can bounce things off of each other, because I see everything you do, but I'm not in the appraisal industry. I'm in video production. But
neither is Kevin. Kevin's not in the appraisal industry, and he and Phil go toe for toe. So that was another thing. I told Phil that they've definitely got the #1 appraisal podcast, but Thad and Rick are coming.
Yeah. Well, we'll see about that. But what amazes me in this whole journey with you, that I never realized myself. And people, I see it in people everywhere you go. The light comes on, because I just thought the appraisal industry was out there. I didn't know there was so much to it. I didn't know that there was no real, there's training, but there's not a national license. There's not this. There's not, that we're with our appraisals, which is the entire wealth is in our properties, our farms, our houses, or whatever. And yet how we get that wealth is through an appraisal, and it's kind of all over the place, and always has been. So I'm excited that this work is finally coming together where we're all going to see it fairly.
And it's all impacted by policy. That was the other thing,
right?
Why policy was so important. And again, I guess I use the analogy of Forrest Gump and Bubba, and how many different ways Bubba could talk about shrimp are the number of ways that I can talk about appraising. And the panels that we had are some of the folks that I lean on. I think Andy Shepard gave a really strong presentation about data collection and the accuracy of the data. If you're starting off with bad data, where do you go from there? So especially, and that gets more challenging when you get into smaller tertiary communities and counties. The data sources, the verification of the data sources, the quality of the data sources that are being recorded. Again, a lot of the methodology is not uniform, and those are the things that we want to be able to teach folks how to do research. And you talked about wealth transfer. It's important because over 60% of small limited resource communities' wealth is in real estate. And over 70% of that same community do not have wills or trusts. So that's the recipe for heirs property. So we start talking about that. And, one of my examples is when I tear up $1 and show them what the fractionalized interest looks like. I got to start recycling some of these dollars.
Everybody, you see the audience come alive when you reach in for $1. They watch it. If I had that $1 that you've torn up so many times, I'd be a wealthy person.
Yeah, shit, you and me both. But again, people see it. Mm-hmm. And that to me is just like data science and plotting out the graph or the chart. It gives it the visualization component, and that's how our brain works, or that's how my brain works. If I see it, I can hold on to it a little bit more. And yeah, I think I who was your favorite presenter?
Oh, I'm not going there. I'm not going there. Thunder Walker had the biggest hair, and you and I don't have much hair left, so I appreciate that. But no, all the speakers were great, and they all. I will say this: if anybody, you don't have to be in the appraisal industry to find what they say interesting. It's about all of us, and you didn't mention you mentioned the work you do with an apprenticeship program in the forestry industry. You had one of the top forestry people from the government, now retired, just recently. He was there too. He came.
Oh yeah, Mr. L. Rand Denson, former director of lands and minerals from the U.S. Forest Service, and he was our first governmental partner on this journey in 2023, and he's been a great resource and a wealth of knowledge. I always tease him that he could count every tree in the Forest Service and be within 5 or 10. Just a very brilliant man, and he came from Alabama. So that was, I mean, Alabama was in the house, Mississippi, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Virginia, California, Florida. It was very humbling that people traveled, but then they also reminded me that I had traveled to their various conferences and presentations, and so everything is interconnected and relational, not transactional, and I think that's what needs to happen for us to push the ball forward in this appraisal modernization. It's time.
So inside the appraisal modernization arena, we mentioned that the appraisers are older. They're going to be dropping out maybe quickly because of the new things that are coming up that they're not going to want to do. And then your apprenticeship program. How does it work right now with young appraisers wanting to come in to the industry? What happens? Where does that training happen? Is every state different? Is every region different? What's happening and what's transforming? If I'm 18 and I want to be an appraiser.
Well, the training and the coursework is different. The problem is in the implementation and getting the hours. That's where things are really outdated and antiquated with the current system. And so what they've proposed is using alternative methods to qualify as career experience towards licensing. But again, it's not really uniformed in the uniform standards of professional appraisal practice. As you know, and you heard me speak about, is anything but uniform. And one of the things with these appraisal modernization acts, it would make the uniform standard appraisal practice, a professional appraisal practice, actually uniform for the first time ever. And you go in with a national license, then you would also go with a national education, because now, in order to get one class, it costs $7,000 to have it approved across the country.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So that part, it makes it expensive even to teach the educational part. But again, nobody is utilizing the data science. Not that they're saying it's wrong; it's just that they don't know how to do it.
Yeah, and appraisal is changing a lot too in terms of technologies and what young appraisers will be using to do this. And it's kind of exciting if you're a young person, I would think.
Yeah, because they grew up with a lot of these tools. So my thing to them is just keep getting sharper and keep getting better. An opportunity is never going to be an opportunity unless you're in a position to take advantage of it. So I want them to be in position to take advantage of the opportunity, and that's why we work so hard and move so hard. And we've been blessed with in-kind office space for Pinnacle Financial Partners. I'd like to thank Greg and Tracy for that at Pinnacle Financial Partners, and we'll utilize that office space until we can find a permanent home. And so I'm just excited to be able to do the work. Looking forward to going to Cincinnati, and we're in the process of pulling that together. And hopefully some folks who couldn't make it to Atlanta can make it to Cincinnati, or we can just expand and get some new blood. But we'll start calling and sending out the save the date cards because October is right around the corner.
And, not only did you have a really great, this is absolutely fabulous. This booklet's so fabulous. I couldn't believe you came up with this. But the other thing that I can tell anybody that works with you in any way, if you go to a summit or anything that you do, you're going to have really good food there. And
yeah, we had really good food. Let's thanks to Miss Vanetta Roy of Eat My Biscuits in College Park. She had some amazing big biscuit breakfast sandwiches that she provided us with. And then, of course, for lunch, we had the #1 chef in Georgia, Chef Tiffany, as she will be opening up her new restaurant on Fairburn and Cascade Road called Lola Pecan. That should be opening at the end of July. And so, yeah, the food was, at the very least, I figured I could feed people and make them happy.
Yep, and you did. You did. It was fun. Fun and
looking forward to the next one. We got a whole year to plan, and we probably got a little less than 6 months for the 4 months for the summit in Cincinnati in October. So it should be a little bit cooler then. But I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited, and again, I'm so thankful to Simone, Anita, Janelle for how the conference came together, and I couldn't be more happy.
It was good. It was fantastic. And as this week goes on, everyone here, well, if they're watching you here on YouTube, you'll be able to see all of these individual sessions from the summit coming up one at a time here during the week. So we get those.
Well, if you like what you see, please hit like, share, subscribe. If you don't like it, still hit like, share, subscribe, and share it with a friend. With that, this is Thaddaus Dawson. Thaddaus Dawson Speaks. Liberation through valuation, where soul meets soil. And again, we just had our first annual National Appraisal Policy Resource Center Summit. So we look forward to you making it to the summit June 17th, 18th, and 19th. Next year in Atlanta. Hopefully me and Rick will still be here. Lord willing, and the creek don't rise.
Don't get left behind.